Hey everyone, and welcome to Venture with Gianpaolo Sellitto, where I'd like to help you learn more about how to improve yourself, become the best possible candidate for a job or internship position, and overall pave your future career path. Now, I don't expect this episode to be very long as it is mainly introductory and there aren't any guests this week. So, if you're listening to this, you're likely an early year university student, maybe studying business, commerce, and maybe you're a finance student. This episode, I'm going to talk about what I've learned so far about job search, networking, improving cover letters and resumes for early year students, and interviews. But first, I'd like to fully introduce myself and tell you why I think you should listen to me. So I'm Gianpaolo and I'm from Toronto. I'm a second year student at University of Toronto and I'm specializing in finance and economics at Rotman Commerce. So I find that finance and economics is an area that tends to be highly competitive with minimal room for error. Back in high school, I knew that I wanted to be involved in commerce, and the area of commerce I wanted to get into was finance. And I guess I never had a change of heart since then. Something else about me is that while I was in high school, I did co-op at a digital marketing agency. I find this important to mention because that was a point in my secondary education where I got hands-on experience in commerce for the first time. Over there, I learned about marketing businesses digitally. For me, that was such a great learning experience. I found that I learned a lot about not just how businesses market themselves today, but also how we as individuals can apply some of these fundamentals to ourselves in the job market to look more appealing to employers. One last thing about myself is that for the longest time I can say that I was a very timid person, always afraid to put myself out there. I find that it's important to mention because maybe some people listening right now are like that. So for me to become less of that timid person, I got more into some personal hobbies. To come out of my shell, I had started learning to play the guitar, and additionally I spent a lot of my time doing taekwondo, where I eventually became a black belt. Of course, this is relevant because I'll be bringing it up later. So, being a commerce student in a highly competitive sector, one of the very first things I got to learn was to network. You may even recognize that the importance of networking is stressed at the beginning of university. So one of my first pieces of advice is to network as much as you possibly can. And this can be done in many different forms. So I advise you to attend live info sessions and networking sessions, which are both online and in person these days. And I think they're all offered by universities, so you probably have easy access to them. Some other things you can do are join clubs or teams, which are good, by the way, for building your own social or soft skills and expanding your network at the same time. And you can also start building your own online reputation, for example, through LinkedIn. But dialing back a bit, when it comes to the big info sessions and networking events where you get to interact with people, I think it's important to just be yourself and be as engaged as you can by listening, asking questions, and clearly answering them. Another piece of advice is just don't be afraid to give out and ask for emails or business cards, etc. And don't be afraid to ask for a second chat or coffee chat. I remember once reading that networking is about giving, and I truly think that this is the key to proper networking. I think one of the best ways to give in terms of networking is through extracurriculars, like joining clubs and sports. And with extracurriculars, you get to build on your soft skills while networking and forming a stronger bond with people. I think that while technical skills are very important to have, it's the soft skills and your behavior in a group that will set you apart from the other people applying for the same positions as you, and it's likely what will land you the position that you were looking for. Like I previously mentioned, I'm a black belt in taekwondo, and with taekwondo, I was able to build on my soft skills as it teaches discipline, courtesy, and integrity, among other things. These are ironically all key traits that employers love and will look for in earlier university students. Another great way to expand your network is through the internet, and now I'll be bringing up LinkedIn. So being on a widely used professional social networking platform like LinkedIn is such an important space to fill yourself in, especially nowadays with the digital environment growing around us. So I think it's very important to have your own LinkedIn profile and also make sure it's as professional as can be. So I advise you to make sure you got a nice professional photo of yourself and put down any work or volunteer experience you have. And employers like to see that you're active, and so you can add some skills and certifications to your profile. I'd also say stay as active as you can on LinkedIn. Make connections with people that you have shared interests with, and maybe post once in a while any accomplishments you've made. Fair warning though, the one issue I find with LinkedIn is in their direct message function. While it's a nice function to communicate directly with people you've made connections with, there are also a lot of scammers that will just try to reel you into a pyramid scheme or just straight up take your money. So overall, I'd say be ambitious on LinkedIn, but also be cautious. You don't want to get scammed. I truly believe it is a missed opportunity to not have your own LinkedIn profile. There are many other ways that you can also expand your digital network, such as creating your own personal website where you can display all about yourself and get people's contact information. And maybe I'll talk about that in a later episode. So now you're ready for networking and building your soft skills. So let's talk about cover letters and resumes. I won't get too into this though because I'd like to save it for another episode. So when you apply for a position at a firm, it's very important that your cover letter and resume is tailored to that position. So first off, starting with your cover letter, you really want to highlight your interest in the firm and your interest in that field or position overall. As a first-year student in commerce, I've learned that employers will look more for your soft skills than your technical skills. So I think it's important in your cover letter to express your genuine interest in that position, along with some key personality traits such as being able to work well in a group. Now, I'm not saying to give up working on your technical skills, but I'm just saying this is a very important aspect that's missed, especially in a market that's very competitive right now, where employers want to know that you're trustworthy and willing to learn as much as you can. This also applies to your resume or CV. So with your resume, you again want it to be tailored to the position you applied for. For example, I've got a serious background in digital marketing, but when I'm applying for a role in finance, I'll put less of my marketing accomplishments into the resume and ensure that my finance background and interests are highlighted more. To highlight soft skills in your resume, you'll want to include clubs, sports, other extracurriculars that you're involved in. And this is very good because it shows your initiative along with teamwork and communication skills. In terms of technical skills, I just advise that you keep it relevant more or less to the position that you are applying for. Right at this point, I won't get into the specific syntax of your CVs and cover letters this episode, but I do advise that you visit the facilities at your university that aid in this area. I know that U of T Career Center can be very helpful for crafting your resume and cover letter, especially if it's something that you're new to. So now, let's say you get an interview with a firm for a position that you've applied to. Here are some ideas to keep in mind in preparation for the interview. Now, right off the bat, it's a given that you should be able to communicate your cover letter and resume, and elaborate on some things that you have included in there. Employers want to see that you're obviously the person you say you are, so they can start to build some trust in you. For earlier university students applying for entry-level positions, employers want someone who is passionate and excited to talk about the position, and overall outgoing and ready to learn. At first, this can be really hard because with your first few interviews, you'll be very nervous. And I remember at my first interview for a position, I was shaking. But of course, doing more interviews and practicing more, you'll definitely knock those nerves out. Another key piece of advice is to always have questions of your own prepared. It shows your communication skills, and it shows that you're genuinely interested and will be committed to work. So some of my own questions that I always prepare are, what is a typical day on the job like? What responsibilities are given to this position? Who will I be reporting to? And what offices are you exactly located in? They're very simple, but they can go a really long way. Lastly, one of the most notable pieces of advice I can give for interviews is that if you do not get the job, it's totally fine, especially in a competitive job market. And do not let it get to you, and you don't want it to put you down. I think one thing you should always do in this scenario is find out why. And there's no harm in reaching out to the employer to maybe schedule a meeting to get some feedback, which then you can take that and use it to improve for the next position you apply for. So to wrap it all up, I think it's important in early year university to always network. We often forget the importance of building your social and soft skills, as most of the time we're working on gaining the technical skills. Expanding your network can be done in many different ways, like virtually through, say, LinkedIn, and in person through, say, clubs and sports. When looking at first year and second year students, employers love to see ambitious students that are excited to learn more and of course are trustworthy. Lastly, in job search, we can learn from our own errors to improve and shape ourselves into a better job candidate. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and took away something that you can apply to yourself. I'd appreciate it if you comment on the video and subscribe for more content to come in the future. This was Venture with Gianpaolo Sellitto, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you for listening. Bye.